Modern winter is an inconvenience. You turn up the thermostat, put on a thicker coat, and wait it out. But 20,000 years ago, winter was an inescapable death machine. The Earth back then was a frozen nightmare. Massive glaciers swallowed entire continents. Forests vanished beneath endless snow, and average temperatures routinely dropped below -40 degrees. In these conditions, the human body burns thousands of calories every day just shivering. Your skin cracks open, your extremities stop working, and your brain enters a state of constant, high-stakes physical stress. Eventually, that level of cold breaks you. To stay alive, prehistoric humans had to operate in a world where the concept of morality was a luxury they could no longer afford. Survival in this era favored a specific type of human, those capable of adapting to horror faster than any other species on the planet. The traits they developed to endure the frost would go on to define the trajectory of our entire lineage. Staying warm meant consuming massive amounts of energy. Early humans shifted their focus away from lean meat, becoming obsessed with a much denser fuel source, pure animal fat. Deep inside Ice Age cave systems, researchers discovered mountains of animal remains. But these weren't normal hunting scraps. They were piles of bones that had been systematically smashed to pieces. When a tribe brought down a mammoth, they cracked open the heavy leg bones within minutes of the kill. They were after the marrow, pure fat that provided the surge of calories necessary to prevent their bodies from freezing. Some of these marrow piles contained more than just animal remains. Across Europe, archaeologists have found human skulls cracked open with the same efficiency, bearing the distinct cut marks and burn patterns of stone butchery tools. This evidence suggests that when a member of a group died, the survivors recycled those calories. In a 6-month stretch of freezing darkness, consumption after death became a viable path to keeping the rest of the tribe alive. When the math of survival is this brutal, human dignity is discarded. These grim acts provided the caloric margin that kept the human species from drifting into extinction. Calories alone couldn't protect a tribe from a sudden blizzard on the open plains. Without natural shelter, the drop in temperature during a storm was often fatal. To survive these spikes in extreme cold, humans utilized the only warmth available. They would cut open fresh animal carcasses and sleep inside the bodies, using the residual heat of a mammoth to shield themselves from the wind. But while they used these visceral tactics, they were also developing sophisticated technology to slow heat loss and protect their skin. Artifacts like these carved bone needles prove that Ice Age humans were tailoring layered fur clothing and insulants. They even rendered animal grease to rub directly onto their skin to act as a chemical barrier against the cold. These tools show that we weren't dealing with primitive brutes. These were specialists who engineered precise solutions to environmental conditions that would cause a modern human to collapse within days. Even with clothing and food, humans remained vulnerable. Massive hyenas and packs of dire wolves hunted across the frozen plains, and they viewed soft, shivering humans as easy winter prey. This predatory threat made fire the most important resource in the world. If a campfire died in the middle of winter, a family's bloodline ended with it. Evidence of violent prehistoric conflict suggests that humans began killing each other not for land, but for survival. Families were massacred inside caves as desperate groups fought to steal burning embers from one another. Our cousins, the Neanderthals, faced the same brutal world. They were resilient, and evidence shows they were deeply compassionate, caring for injured group members for years, even when food was scarce. This raises a question. If Neanderthals were intelligent, strong, and capable of complex social care, why did they vanish as the winters worsened while we endured? The answer may lie in the movement of objects. Archaeologists have tracked specific stone tools as they traveled hundreds of miles across the ice. This suggests that human tribes were meeting and exchanging both resources and critical survival data. In this environment, isolation was a death sentence. While isolated tribes died off, these early networks allowed information and resources to flow, giving connected groups the ability to adapt as a collective. Our ancestors survived because they mastered the ability to forge connections and share knowledge across a frozen wasteland. Physical survival was only part of the struggle. For 6 months of the year, tribes lived in near total darkness with no certainty that the spring would ever return. To manage the psychological pressure of this isolation, humans sat beside their fires and began to tell stories. These narratives weren't just for entertainment, they functioned as survival manuals. Stories warned children about the dangers of thin ice, explained migration patterns, and taught the specific behaviors of predators. This changed the nature of human learning. By turning individual experience into a collective narrative, life-saving knowledge could survive longer than an individual memory, allowing a tribe's wisdom to grow across generations. The glaciers eventually retreated, but the human brain remains hardwired for the survival conditions of the Ice Age. We still carry the biological imprint of that era. It's why we feel a spike in stress hormones during isolation, why we have an instinctual fear of the dark, and why firelight has such a profound, calming effect on our nervous systems. These reactions are ancient instincts, keeping us alert to threats that haven't existed for thousands of years. We are the direct descendants of the people who stared into the freezing darkness and refused to die. Our bodies still remember the cold, even if our minds have forgotten it.